Hello and welcome to my channel. Thanks for being here and clicking on this video. My name is Ava, and I share real-life stories from all around the world. Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. My name is Jamila. When I was 14, my mom passed away. Life was really tough, but I fought hard to raise my brothers and sisters on my own. By the time I was 23 or 24, I met a man. Back then, I thought God was finally rewarding me for all the pain and struggles I had gone through in life. We lived in the poorer part of the city. One day, I was coming home from work when I saw a man. He was beating up this old, weak man in the street. At first, I wanted to just walk past, but I couldn't. I threw my backpack over my shoulder, walked straight up to him, and said, "Hey, what are you doing? Who gave you the right to beat this poor old man like that?" The guy stopped kicking, looked me up and down, and smirked. "None of your business. Mind your own," he said. "Unless you want to get involved too." I frowned and snapped back, "Who do you think you are? You think you can just push people around? If you dare to even touch me, I'll make sure the police deal with you right here, right now." Before I could even pull my phone out of my bag, another man stepped out of a black luxury car parked nearby. That's when I realized the first guy wasn't alone. The young man walked toward me with a faint smile and said, "Sharif, leave him alone. Pick him up and let him go." Then he turned to me and added, "So, you're saying even Sharif, who's 4 times tougher than most guys, wouldn't dare lay a finger on you?" I looked at him. He was unbelievably handsome, well-dressed, the kind of guy you'd never expect to see in a neighborhood like mine. Trying to stay composed, I tucked my hair back under my scarf and said, "I don't care how tough anyone is. No one has the right to bully others. And no, he wouldn't dare touch me." Then I tried to leave, but they didn't let me. That moment was the start of my story with the man who later became my husband. It began with arguments, then he somehow got my home address, and before long he officially came to propose. He wasn't the type to play games or mess around. He just said straight up, "I like you, and you should be my wife. A man like me needs a woman who's bold and fearless like you." Naive as I was, I thought, wow, after all these years of pain, suddenly a rich man loves me and wants to marry me. This must be God's answer to my suffering. My relatives were jealous of our marriage. Even my cousin, who always acted like she supported me, gave me that look of envy. Farhad, my husband, was amazing. I'll never forget the day someone knocked on our door and delivered a flower bouquet the size of me. It was so huge it barely fit in our house. My sister took dozens of pictures with it. My brother joked, "Come on, share some of these flowers with me. Maybe I can win over 5 or 6 girls at once." But I was just staring at the roses, stunned. It was something I had always dreamed of, being surprised with a giant bouquet of red roses by someone who loved me. I couldn't believe my fantasy had become real. Our marriage happened so fast, it only took 5 days. He saw me on day 1, came with his family to propose on day 2, and by day 5, we were married. My father didn't hesitate for a second. He said yes right away. His family insisted they were in a rush because his father was leaving the country, so everything had to happen quickly. They promised we'd have a big wedding ceremony in a few months. On our wedding day, I had about 100 guests, but his side brought hundreds, 500, 600 people, maybe more. The hall was luxurious, filled with gifts. Among them, what caught everyone's attention were the trays of gold jewelry. Not just my family, but even his relatives were whispering about it. The women in the hall couldn't take their eyes off me. There were 3 large trays of gold set on the table. Necklaces, bracelets, anklets, even a golden belt. His older sister-in-law, who was almost my mother's age, walked up and began putting the jewelry on me piece by piece. A huge necklace on my chest, bangles up both my arms until they couldn't fit anymore, so they pinned the extras to my dress. They even gave me armlets and anklets. That day, I was literally covered in gold from head to toe. My sister, Zala, walked up to me, touched the golden belt around my waist, and whispered, "Sis, I can't believe this. It feels like I'm dreaming." And honestly, so did I. I was begging God not to break down in tears. I was overwhelmed with emotions. I thanked him for giving me so much happiness, but at the same time, I had this strange feeling in my chest. Everything looked beautiful, fancy, and perfect, but I had this deep uneasiness inside me. I leaned toward my sister and whispered, "Narges, I don't know why, but I feel really anxious. Something feels off." She smiled and said, "You're just shocked. You've never seen this much gold in your life, and now that you're wearing it all at once, your body can't handle it. Don't worry, it'll pass. Look at your husband. He's proud, yes, but right now he's circling around you like a butterfly. Everything is amazing, your dress, the ceremony, his classy family, and of course, your husband himself. Honestly, my heart feels so light just watching you." I'll never forget the day when our uncle's wife said, "No one's going to want these girls. They don't have a mother, and their father isn't well off." And now? Look at their faces. They're staring at you with envy. Just then my brother called for Narges, and she left my side. I got up slowly and walked into the crowd. Farhad was standing with his friends, laughing and chatting. His family was mingling with relatives, and a group of young people were dancing in the middle. I made my way over to one of my aunts and sat next to her. I had two aunts. The older one, whose kids were all married off, really loved me and my siblings. My other aunt also loved us, I can't deny that, but since we were the same age as her kids, there was always this silent competition. Sometimes I could see that jealousy in her eyes. As I sat next to my older aunt, she was the first to notice something was off. Without me saying a word, she leaned closer and, through the loud music, whispered, "Why do you look sad, my girl? Why did that smile suddenly disappear from your face?" I looked at her and said softly, "Auntie, I don't know. Suddenly this wave of sadness hit me." She nodded knowingly. "That's natural. You're missing your mother. You were older than your siblings when she passed, so you remember her more. You carry more memories of her. That's why your heart longs for her today. It could also be that, deep down, you're unsure about your choice. Let's be honest, you didn't really get to know him before saying yes. We came here blindfolded. Everything moved so fast. And all their customs are new to us. This kind of luxury, we'd never even dreamed of it. It's all strange, overwhelming, and that's why you're uneasy. But don't let fear into your heart. Look at us. When we got married, we could barely afford one gold ring and maybe a small silver set, and we prayed nobody would notice it wasn't gold. But here you are, covered head to toe in gold, so much that your neck is bending under the weight. Everything about their family is different, yes. But don't be scared. Enjoy it. We went through so much poverty, but thank God you won't have to suffer like we did. Go on, live it, enjoy it. Go dance, sweetheart." Her words were comforting, but honestly, they didn't ease my heart. I stood up, scanning the crowd, searching for Farhad through the music and lights. Suddenly, I felt a hand on my shoulder and his warm breath in my ear. "When will this night finally end, Jamile? I can't wait any longer. I keep trying to distract myself, but I can't take my eyes off you. Look at me. I can't believe such a beautiful woman has become mine." I gave him a faint smile and said, "Farhad, why don't you introduce me to your friends?" He took my hand and replied, "Those guys over there are my university friends. The ones standing in the corner are from the gym, and they've come with their partners. I already introduced you to the family. Who else do you want to meet?" I hesitated and then asked, "What about those Arab men?" He glanced at them and said casually, "They're my clients. We've been doing business together for years, so they've become like family. That's why they're here." We also have guests from abroad. See that couple in white? They came from Germany. We even have guests from Turkey. Don't stress about meeting everyone now. You'll have plenty of chances later. Then he looked at me with a grin. By the way, you never told me you could dance this well. I rolled my eyes playfully and said, "Oh, there's a lot you don't know about me yet. I'm full of surprises. I can dance, cook amazing meals, and even sing really well." He leaned in closer, his voice low and tender. "I could tell from your laughter that your voice must be beautiful. I'd love to hear you sing for me one day. Jamila, be everything to me. Be my whole world." I looked into his eyes and whispered back, "Only if you become my shelter, my crown, my heart." He chuckled softly and teased, "You're not afraid? You know, even wolves don't wag their tails for no reason. Aren't you scared of what might come after this?" I locked eyes with him and said, "No, not when I'm with you." I wasn't afraid. But before Farhad could answer me, the photographer called us over. He started complaining that we weren't really posing, that we weren't giving him enough energy for the pictures. Then he went on snapping photo after photo of us. Honestly, I had no idea why he needed so many. From the morning at the beauty salon until late that night, it felt like I had been in front of a camera nonstop. That night eventually came to an end. Technically, it was supposed to be our engagement day, but his family insisted that from that moment on, I was already considered Farhad's wife and that I should move into their house. When it was time to say goodbye to my dad, my sister, and my brother, it felt like I was giving away my soul. My sister was about 18 at the time, still studying for her college entrance exams. My brother had just finished his military service. I entrusted the three of them first to God, and then to each other, and left with Farhad and his family. Leaving behind our tiny 50-square-meter home, I stepped into a place where even the bathroom was that size. It wasn't a house, it wasn't even a villa. It was a mansion. Big, elegant, and breathtaking. The moment I crossed that threshold, a mix of strange emotions swept over me. Awe, fear, even a kind of dread. It was like the house itself was whispering my name. I tried to ignore those unsettling feelings. Instead, I started removing all the jewelry they had piled onto me earlier, one by one. I laid everything neatly onto a tray and handed it to Farhad. He carried it out of the room, and I had no idea where he was taking it. Honestly, I didn't care. Deep down, I didn't consider that gold mine. It belonged to Farhad and his family. The only thing left was the crown pinned to my hair. I removed it and set it on the vanity. One of the servants came in, helped me out of my dress, and I took a shower. Afterwards, with my hair still damp, I lay down on the bed, lost in thought. Farhad still hadn't come back. My mind kept replaying the whole day, our ceremony, my father-in-law announcing that in their tradition, the bride's dowry had to be paid immediately. He said a woman's dowry was her right and should never be delayed. That same moment, they signed half of a luxury home into my name. At the time, my family believed I had struck gold, that I had received more than anyone could dream of. Later, after living with them, I realized they had actually gotten me for cheap. But that night, all I felt was exhaustion. I thought and thought until my eyes finally closed. When Farhad finally entered, I couldn't believe how gentle he was. He pulled the blanket off me softly, kissed each of my fingers, and whispered in my ear, "I'm sorry for leaving you alone so long. Come rest on my arm. Sleep here with me." I must have looked nervous, because he gave me a small smile and said, "Don't be afraid. Nothing will happen until you're ready, until you feel comfortable with me. Tonight, I was just teasing you. Come here, let me hold you." That night passed in peace. His family never asked for proof of my virginity, something common in many traditional weddings, where the next morning, the blood-stained cloth is shown to the women of the family. They simply weren't bound by such customs. But the next morning, my aunt came to see me, demanding the cloth. I told her his family didn't care about those things and that nothing had happened yet anyway. She scolded me, warning, later, they'll accuse you of things you can't defend. You're being foolish. Then she left, frustrated. After she was gone, Farhad came into the room with a set of clothes his family had bought for me. I put them on and together we went downstairs. That's when I realized I wasn't just visiting. I was going to live in this house from now on. Besides me, there were 2 other daughters-in-law in the family, the eldest one, who was about my mother's age, and another, maybe 4 or 5 years older than me. And that was the beginning of my new life in their home. And besides those 2 sisters-in-law, I had one sister-in-law too. She was already married, but still lived in that house with her kids. Basically, the whole routine of that family was wake up in the morning, fix themselves up, go work out, then have lunch at the best restaurants. In the afternoon, they'd go to some women's gathering, and at night either come back home or go to parties with their husbands. 4 times a day, they'd still find time to go shopping. And their only worry was whether the dress they bought might be bought by someone else too, or whether the dress they bought was prettier than somebody else's, or whether they dyed their hair before anyone else did. If another woman copied it, then she was jealous. If they had a nose job, it had to look better than the other woman who had a nose job. Honestly, the whole life and thoughts of the women in that house were that shallow. I swear to God, if I tell you this now, you'd say, no way, their life was way better. But by the 2nd or 3rd week I was living there, I realized that my own poor, simple life was way sweeter than theirs. Some of these rich people don't enjoy life or money at all. It's all just competition, jealousy, and bitterness. Now, for Farhad, I was the total opposite of the women in that house. When I saw how those women were, I finally understood why Farhad had rushed into marrying me and why he was so drawn to me. Even the tiniest thing he bought for me would make me so excited. I would thank him over and over, genuinely, not fake. I'd get so happy that he'd get happy too. I'd thank him so much that eventually he'd say, okay, that's enough. It's not worth all that. But still, if it was a dress, I'd put it on. If it was shoes, I'd wear them. Even if it was makeup, I'd rush to try it on with so much excitement. Then I'd start singing and dancing around, thrilled like a child. That's how I was with every little thing he bought me. So, our life kept going like that, and every day Farhad and I fell more in love. I really started to believe this marriage was perfect and beautiful. He would go to work in the mornings and come back around 2 or 3 in the afternoon. After that, we were always together, either going out, going to parties, or just enjoying each other's company. I had stopped working and only went to university. Then, about a month later, something strange happened. One night, they were hosting a birthday party for my middle sister-in-law. They had invited lots of guests, and my older sister-in-law, who was crazy about parties, had helped her set up everything with the best decorations and choices. Since I still didn't really know how things worked around there, I just quietly watched them. My older sister-in-law was married to the daughter of some big shot in the country. The middle one, her name was Helma, came from a super rich family too. They say on her wedding day her father gave her her own weight in gold. Anyway, on the day of the party, those 2 were rushing around talking about their dresses. Suddenly Helma turned to me and said, "Jamila, what's your dress like?" I tossed my hair back and said, "Farhad bought me a gown. He picked it out himself. I just can't bring myself to wear something else when he chose it. And it's beautiful. It's red with a sweetheart neckline, long with a slit in the back. He told me to pair it with silver shoes and a silver clutch. Want me to show you?" My older sister-in-law said, "No, we don't need to see it. My dress is silver, so red and silver together will look nice. And Helma's wearing pink." I crossed my legs and said, "Well, red and white together stand out more than pink. Maybe Helma should wear a lighter color." Helma, rubbing cream on her knees, laughed and said, "No way, my dress has tons of crystals on it. It's super flashy. Don't worry. I'm going to the salon too. You guys better get dolled up tonight. We're going to steal the spotlight." The three of us brides laughed and went our ways. After they left, I got up and walked out. My mother-in-law was a serious woman with a lot of authority. As soon as I saw her, I lowered my head politely and greeted her. She returned the greeting and then asked, "You're not going to the salon?" I shrugged and said, "No, I'll just do my own makeup." Farhad had told me not to tell his family I used to be a beautician. She frowned and said, "Why would you do it yourself when there are plenty of skilled makeup artists? This family has its own customs. These parties are not child's play where you just smear some lipstick on and think it's enough. I don't want my son Farhad to be embarrassed in front of his brothers. Yes, you're prettier than the other two brides, but that doesn't mean you can neglect yourself. You should have already booked a salon appointment." Now, someone else might have gotten offended, thinking she was meddling in my business. But I didn't. Honestly, imagine someone begging you to go to the salon. What's better than that? In my whole life, except on my wedding day, I had never gone to one. I smiled, closed my eyes for a second, and said, "Of course, whatever you say. From now on, for every event, I'll go to the salon to get my makeup done." Right then I said, "If you don't mind, I'll just call Farhad so he can take me to the salon." Without saying a word, she leaned her cane on the floor and walked away. I called Farhad from the house phone, and a few minutes later we went to the salon together. I had also taken my dress with me. At the salon, I told them I wanted a full makeover, and since I was a skilled beautician myself, I explained exactly how I wanted them to do my makeup. When I stood up, I couldn't even recognize myself. I looked even more beautiful than on my wedding day. The red dress matched perfectly with my green eyes, and my fair skin in that deep crimson looked like velvet. Everyone at the salon complimented me and kept staring. After practically emptying a whole bottle of perfume on myself, I went downstairs. When I saw Farhad's car, I quickly ran toward it and got in. He smiled and said, "You've changed so much. You look stunning, Jamila." I leaned back against the seat. It was the first time in my life I had ever seen automatic car windows that went up and down with a button. I pressed it and the window went down. Smiling, I said, "You know, when I was born, I was so pretty that my dad said my name should be either Zeba or Jamila. My mom told him, 'Fine, let's call her Zeba.' But they say my dad leaned over the cradle, looked at me, and said, 'No, Zeba isn't enough for this girl. Let's call her Jamila, it suits her better.' And that's how I got my name." Farhad, excited, said, "Honestly, they picked the perfect name. It really suits you." When we reached the gate, the guard opened it quickly. I got out of the car, and as I did, my scarf slipped off my head, revealing my hair and part of my dress. Before I could pull the scarf back on, I noticed the guard staring. And then, before I could even process it, a loud bang echoed, and the guard collapsed right in front of my eyes. I turned, stunned, first looking at Farhad and then at what was in his hand. How could he? I felt like I must have been dreaming. I looked back at the guard. He wasn't moving. There was a hole in his chest, right where his heart had been. I spun back toward Farhad, my voice trembling as I screamed, What did you do? I can't believe this, Farhad. What is that in your hand? You killed him." Farhad didn't even flinch. Without the slightest care, he tucked the damn thing into his belt, straightened his jacket, and calmly said, "That's what happens to men who dare to stare in this house. When you walk by, nobody should even lift their head to glance at you, let alone stare." My whole body started shaking. Tears streamed down my face. I couldn't stop trembling. I couldn't believe Farhad had just done that, and even worse, that it didn't seem to bother him at all. It was like swatting a fly buzzing around your head. You don't think twice, you just smack it. That's exactly how he acted, like it was nothing. And that terrified me more than anything. Because if this wasn't the first time, how many others had there been? I could barely breathe, my chest tight, until I collapsed on the floor inside the house. My mother-in-law appeared, walking toward me with her high heels. She leaned her cane against my side, then suddenly pressed her foot down hard on my hand. With a cold, deliberate voice she said, "Get up. Pull yourself together. Don't waste our time with your hysterics." Something like this, you see it, but you act like you didn't. You don't cry over it, you don't make a scene. Now get up and fix yourself. After the party, I'll deal with you. She lifted her foot and walked away, cane clicking against the floor, leaving my hand throbbing. It felt like it might have been broken. Crying, I dragged myself up the stairs. My makeup was smeared, my face blackened with tears and mascara. Moments later, the door burst open. Farhad stormed in, furious, looking around until he found me. He came close and snapped, "Why have you been crying so much? Why are you making a scene? Look at yourself. You know we're supposed to go downstairs in less than 15 minutes. What the hell are you doing?" Through sobs I looked at him and said, "Farhad, you killed that guard. Do you even realize what you did? Who are you, Farhad? How could you do that so easily?" He exploded. With one sweep he knocked everything off the table, grabbed me by the hair, shoved me against the wall, and shouted, "If I have to, I'll end you too. Don't you ever interfere in my business again or make a scene like this. From now on, whatever I do, you'll shut your eyes and say nothing but yes. Do you understand me?" I just stared at him silently, tears streaming. His face twisted with rage. He leaned closer and screamed, "Did you hear me?" My shoulders were trembling, but still I couldn't speak. His jaw clenched tight as he growled, "Don't you ever unleash the beast in me, Jamila. Don't push me to the point where I'll do something you'll regret. When I'm angry, the only word I want from you is yes. Remember that." With a trembling chin and disbelief in my eyes, I looked at him and said, "Guess you really care about me. Otherwise, I wouldn't even be breathing right now. You would have yanked that bastard off your back and emptied a bullet right into me." That wasn't the first time he raised his hand against me. It was like he hated it when you looked him straight in the eye and told him what he was doing. And when I did look him dead in the eyes and said it, he charged at me in anger. In the middle of our fight, the door opened and my mother-in-law walked in carrying a tray of gold. Seeing the situation, Farhad angrily let go of me and stormed out. I was coughing, rubbing my throat, touching my face that had hit against the walls. Then, with a sharp blow to my side, I felt my breath get knocked out. I looked at my mother-in-law. She had gone at me with that gold belt. The same belt everyone envied, the one even my sister had touched once, admiring how thick and heavy it was. And now, that same belt was giving me one of the worst pains I'd ever felt. My screams got lost in the loud music blasting downstairs. That day, they thought they'd really taught me a lesson. But I was Jamila. I wished Farhad hadn't forgotten how we met. I wished he knew I wasn't some quiet, obedient woman. I was too wild to take abuse and stay silent. Maybe if I had kept quiet, I would have had a so-called good life, just like my two sisters-in-law. But I couldn't. That night was torture for me. Every moment, I saw the image of that guard lying on the ground, and everything that followed, the blows I had taken. I got up, yanked that cursed dress off my body, splashed water on my face and hands. Everything hurt. My forehead had scratches. I threw a scarf over my head and walked out of the room. From the top of the stairs, I looked down into the hall. Farhad was sitting, serious-faced, with 3 or 4 men, talking. The others were laughing, eating, dancing. Before anyone could see me, I went back into the room. I kept thinking, what should I do? Pretend I don't see anything? What could I even do? Why did his mom treat me like that? Sure, we weren't rich, But what gave them the right to raise their hands on me? In my own family, no one had ever said a harsh word to me, let alone hit me. Not even my father. So, what right did they have to beat me like this? The burns from that cursed belt were still stinging. I lay down on the bed and cried until I didn't know whether I had fallen asleep or fainted. In the middle of the night, I opened my eyes and saw Farhad lying next to me, holding my hand. He had lifted my shirt and rubbed some cream over my wounds. I smirked. A deep hatred had settled in my heart for him. I pulled my hand away from his, and he woke up, staring at me. I tried to get up, but he stopped me, saying, "You've already pissed me off enough tonight. Don't push it or it'll get worse for you. Just because I've shown you my good side doesn't mean you get to act bold." With anger and disgust, I spat back, "Let me go. Get your filthy hands off me. Don't touch me." That got under his skin. He grabbed me harder. I realized I couldn't fight him, so I just turned away from him, crying. He didn't say anything else after that. I kept shifting around in bed until finally, I drifted off to sleep. The next morning, Farhad got up and left. I knew he was getting ready for work, and me, foolish as I was, had been his wife for only a month and a half, and I still hadn't even been to his workplace. He left, and I didn't feel like going out of the room. I grabbed a piece of cake from the mini fridge in the room and ate it. A few minutes later, the sisters-in-law came in, Helma and Nastarin. When they saw me, they rushed over and asked what happened. I told them the whole story honestly. Helma fell silent. Nastarin glanced at her, then turned to me and said, "You shouldn't interfere in things that don't concern you. If that guard was supposed to follow the rules of this place, he'd have done so. He got what he deserved. Why did you stick your nose in? You made trouble for yourself." I stared at her, confused, and said, "Nastarin, what are you saying? What do you mean? What does it have to do with you? That was my husband. My husband did that, and he didn't even care. How is that not my business?" Helma's phone rang. She gave Nastarin a quick look and left the room. As soon as she was gone, Nastarin leaned close and hissed, "Stop with these heroics in front of Helma. Don't say things like that in front of her. Look, in his line of work, he uses people when he needs them. If your job is selling clothes, you use clothes, right? That's what they do. They take what they want and discard it. Apologies, friends, there are terms I can't spell out plainly here due to limits, so I'll leave it at that." I looked at Nastarin, shocked, and asked, "What do you mean? What is Farhad's job?" She lowered her voice and said, "Girl, listen. Wake up. This house is not a place for playing. I've been a daughter-in-law here for 20 years, I'm 40 now. The old man, your father-in-law, used to have a second wife who caused a lot of trouble. They humiliated her, put her in the middle, and did worse. These people are cruel and powerful. You can't fight them or try to reform them. Years of this is their profession. They'll take 4 girls like you, use them dry, and spit them out. It's best you don't show it on your face. Keep your head down and enjoy what you have. Don't meddle in things that aren't your business, or they'll close your eyes for you." Seeing my open, bewildered eyes, she smirked and added, "This mansion's walls are full of secrets. The most expensive and rare things are kept in this house." Her words hit the wound that was already burning inside me. I forced myself to speak through the knot in my chest. "Nastarin, after that man finished with that first woman, what did they do to the second wife?" Nastarin took a sip of water and said flatly, "They buried her right here, in the garden." I didn't understand for a moment. The world spun, and the slice of cake I'd eaten surged up like it was trying to come out with my soul. My legs gave way, and I barely made it to the bathroom. When I came out, my vision blurred and I collapsed right at the front door. A few minutes later, the door opened and Farhad came in. Seeing me on the floor, he grabbed my shoulders, lifted me up in one motion, and carried me to the bed. He brushed my hair from my face and said, The day I saw you acting all proud like that, I told myself my wife must be like this. If I'd known you were so delicate, I'd never have married you. I gripped his hands and looked at him. How could this be the same Farhad? Swallowing my spit, I stroked his hands weakly. He watched me silently. Tears filled my eyes. Farhad, I said, these hands of yours that caress me so gently, how could they do what they did? How many times has that guard been targeted? The man I loved, the one I built my whole hope on, who is he? The Farhad I thought I knew is miles away from the man in front of me. Why didn't you tell me about this from day one? He scowled and snapped. What didn't I tell you on day one? Open your mouth and insult me, do whatever you want. You're getting on my nerves, Jamila. You're really bothering me. I forced a bitter, resentful smile and said sarcastically, well then, why don't you just pull it out and fire a shot into my head right now? He said nothing, just stared. I kept looking at the window and muttered under my breath, you can't be bringing those things in legally. They must be illegal, right? He frowned and hissed, who told you that? I asked angrily, how long were you going to keep it from me? Didn't you say you were into engineering and trading stocks? Why am I only now finding out about this job of yours? How does that money even go down your family's throat? I snapped. He smiled and said, the same way your family's money has gone down your throat until now. Get up and fix your face. You look like a ghost. Come on, stand up and tidy yourself. Then go eat a bite. Don't sit there chewing on my brain. I stood up and said, I want to go home. I want to visit my family. He bored said, you can't go. Not right now. I don't feel like taking you. You must stay home. I got angry and yelled, to hell with you and your family. He got angry too and, in retaliation, tried to slap me across the face. Because I was off guard, I was thrown hard and crashed into the wardrobe. The large mirror on it shattered and fell all over me. I was covered in cuts and bruises. He grabbed me and hurried me down the stairs. Everyone followed us, stunned, and he was frantic. Someone ran to get the car. As soon as the car came, he tossed me into it and we rushed to the hospital. At the hospital, they said nothing serious had happened. They removed some glass from my ear and stitched me up a bit. Then, with awkward smiles, they told me, on the bright side, you're pregnant. Something like that, you know, they used that flowery phrase. I felt like the whole thing had been a nightmare. At the moment I first set foot in that house, I thought it was a reward for all my good deeds. Now it felt like a harsh lesson. I sighed and stared at the blue sky outside the hospital window and said, so that's how it is. You're testing me, aren't you? You put me through a hard exam. Now what? What am I supposed to do? I was terrified of that family, of that house, and even of Farhad. And on top of that, you'd given me a child. What now? When Farhad heard the news, he acted as if the world had been handed to him. He was overjoyed at the idea of having his first child. Of course, it wasn't Nasrin's fault. If it were, they'd have taken 100 other women for my brother-in-law already. The problem was the brother-in-law, and Helma didn't want children. So Farhad was thrilled to bring the first grandchild into the family. My mother-in-law was proud that she finally had a grandchild. And I was the saddest pregnant woman in the world, terrified and shaken from the day his mother had raised her hand against me. After that, I barely spoke to her. I avoided eye contact. I even avoided accepting her congratulations. I lowered my gaze and stayed silent. From the day we left the hospital, I stopped sleeping on the bed. I slept on the couch. On the third day after learning I was pregnant, the door opened. Farhad came in carrying a huge bouquet and a gift box. He set the flowers and the box by my side and sat down. He said, "You've got so much jewelry, now it's probably all normal to you. I bought you something new. You've been sleeping away from me for 3 days. I didn't say anything because of the baby, but now I got this for you so the distance is gone. From tonight you'll sleep in your place again." Life is more valuable than our childishness. See, I've given you comfort and the best I can. You've got a whole room just for clothes, another for bags and shoes. Whatever you want in an instant is ready for you. I want those early days when I'd come home and you'd put on a lovely dress, do your makeup, flirt a little, your laughter filling my ears and your scent all around me. I don't want this current situation. My mouth wouldn't stay quiet. I looked at him and said, if you don't want this situation, then take it out of your pocket and fire a shot into my head. Contrary to what I expected, he didn't get angry, he laughed. Oh, he said. You know I love you. You're so dramatic. If I didn't love you, would you dare look me in the eye? Let alone say such nonsense. I stared and said, you really love kids, don't you? He put his hand on my belly and said, even though I know you're still in shock, I love this one already. I hope it's a boy. Jamila. We'll play football together. We'll take him in the car and go for drives. I wanted the baby to be a boy first. I wanted him to be with me, to be good, to make a good life. I swallowed and asked, what about that guard you finished? He had a child, now that child's without a father. A woman is without a husband. In my world, Farhad wouldn't let that just pass. But Farhad shrugged and let the words slide down his throat like it was nothing. You can't just tear a family apart and then build your own family out of the wreckage. I start doubting God's justice if you sit there happy with your wife and kids while destroying another man's family. I was angry and righteous. He snapped back, if I've been a womanizer, if I betrayed trust, fine, let me pay for it. But I only look at my wife. I expect her to do the same. I was exhausted and dizzy, feeling awful. I laid my head on his chest and his arms wrapped around me quickly. I whispered, promise me you'll never do that again. He went silent. My tears soaked his white shirt. I said more quietly, if you ever do this again, you'll lose me. If you love me at all, don't ever do it. Please, Farhad, you've got enough money. What kind of job is this? He kissed my forehead and said, don't meddle in things that don't concern you. This family's business, their comings and goings, they're none of your business. But if that's your first request, I'll accept it, just for you and our son. I scoffed and asked, how do you know it's a son? He grinned and said, if I let it be, I know it's a boy. Even though I hadn't shaken off the memory of what he'd done, I had to live on. After a few months in that house, I discovered the truth. That belt wasn't the only thing they brought in. There were drugs, too. Under the pool was a hidden wall. They'd drain the water, open a hatch, go inside, hide things or pull things out, then close it again and refill the pool. They stashed ridiculous stuff everywhere, among toys, in piles of old magazines sewn into waistbands, even inside the heel of a high-heeled shoe. Every time I'd blush with anger, there was nothing I could do. Every time hunger forced me to eat in that house, I'd place my hand on my belly and, through tears, apologize to the child inside me. I was ashamed to give it spoiled food, things that were tainted, while its soul was forming. But I had no choice. I hate that word, no choice. I hate it as much as the phrase, my father's house. I had nowhere to go. Those two words made me sick, but in those days I had to use them. With a child in my belly, where could I go? Clothes lost their taste. Makeup lost its thrill. Even the walls and doors of that mansion suffocated me. As the days passed and I stayed home while Helma and Nasrin flitted from class to parties, my relationship with Farhad deteriorated. I'd be forced to lie beside him at night, and I had no appetite for him. During the day, I didn't speak a single word to him, and gradually he stopped talking to me too. At about 9 months, one night they had a big party at the house. A lot of big people were there. Toward the end, everyone left except 2 men. Helma, Nasrin, and my mother-in-law went into their rooms. I followed them, but stayed at the top of the stairs. My brother-in-law said they'd continue their conversation in the garden. The 2 men and 3 brothers rose and headed that way. I couldn't stand it. I left the house and went toward the garden. Hiding behind the trees, I listened. They were in trouble, arguing about something that didn't match between them. The eldest brother angrily pulled something from behind his back and aimed it at those two men. The second brother attacked some of them from behind, and then the middle brother grabbed legs and dragged them toward the stone blocks. A car came, they tossed both men into it and drove away. The middle brother left with them too. The eldest turned to Farhad and said, "I expected you to hit him. Why did you stand on the sidelines?" Farhad took his hands out of his pockets and said, "I told you I'm done with that." His brother scoffed mockingly, "I can't believe you all for a woman. If that were me, I wouldn't keep that tall girl in the house even a minute. In the end, they'll hand her to trouble. If I were you, I'd finish him. You'll get nothing but trouble." To my astonishment, Farhad answered, "If they finish his business, mine's finished too. My life depends on that, brother. Don't get involved. Have you ever felt love and hatred at the same time? It's horrible. You think from stories it might be romantic, but when you actually experience it, it's awful. It felt exactly like when you mess your pants. You've ruined everything, stinking up the place, yet somehow you sit there calm and collected. That's how I felt about the life Farhad had built for me. A life full of lies, a life where he tricked me. I hated it. I hated the money flowing into my life. But still, my whole heart and soul belonged to Farhad. When I heard those words from him, my eyes filled with tears and my heart started racing. I looked up at the dark sky and whispered, "God, what if? What if this man wasn't who he is? I swear I would have tasted heaven right here in this world." I turned back and went into the house, my hands freezing from everything I'd just seen and heard. Farhad came in after me, looked at me and said, "Why are you breathing so hard?" I sat on the bed and whispered, "Nothing. My belly's gotten so big, every move cuts off my breath." He undressed and said, "Not much longer now. Soon you'll see our son. I hope he comes fast. It'll be easier for you and for me." I glanced at him and asked, "Easier for you? Why?" He shrugged, "Because I want to hold him too. I want to see him." "Do you think he'll look like me or you?" I whispered, "Like you." He gave a faint smile and said, "If he looks like me, I'll sign over a villa by the sea to you." I buried my face in his chest, closed my eyes and muttered, "Keep your villa, bought with dirty money." He stayed silent. A few minutes later, he quietly asked, "Do you think, if I repent, God will forgive me?" With my eyes still closed, I answered, "Why ask me? Ask your own heart. The truest words live there." 2 days later, I went into labor. The day of my delivery was strange. None of his family showed up. Not even Farhad. My stomach twisted with anxiety. I think it was around 2002. I waited in that big hospital, but no one came. Only my sister was beside me, playing with the baby and helping me. I asked her to call his family from the hospital phone to find out why no one was there. Before she could leave, my sister-in-law came in, crying. She looked at me and wailed, "Jamila, we're ruined." My heart froze. Terrified, I asked, "What happened, sister?" Between sobs, she looked at my son and said, "Poor child, he never even saw his father. Someone ratted us out. Last night the police raided the house. They arrested everyone, even Helma and Nastarin. 9 days later, after I was discharged, I stayed at my father's house. No news of Farhad, no news of his family. After those 9 days, my mother-in-law, Helma, and Nastarin were released. As soon as I heard, I went to see them at the daughter's house. I asked what would happen to Farhad. They all shrugged and said they didn't know. My mother-in-law snapped bitterly, "Weren't you always whining? Isn't this what you wanted? Then go be happy." And she kicked me out. I asked my sister-in-law's husband how I could see Farhad. He said, "You can't right now." Eventually, I got the lawyer's number. He warned me not to say I got it from him, not to drag him into it. I agreed. Then I called the lawyer and told him I wanted to see Farhad. He said Farhad wanted to see me too, and he'd arrange it. In 2 or 3 days, I could visit. When the day came, I wrapped my baby, still nameless, in a blanket and went to see him. I couldn't believe I'd have to see him like this. When the door opened, he looked at me with such longing. Then he came straight for the baby, scooped him up, and with all his manly pride, he broke down sobbing. I couldn't believe it. Farhad crying over a swaddled infant, kissing his tiny hand. I sat beside him, in tears too, and whispered, "Farhad, they know everything." He gave me a subtle gesture, "Don't talk." So I said nothing more. He handed the baby back to me and asked, "What's his name?" I smiled faintly and said, "Do you think I'd name him without you?" "I'll wait until you're back and we'll choose together." He gave a bitter smile. Since I got locked up, there's only one thing echoing in my head. When you told me if I'm happy with a wife and child, then you doubt God's justice. Every moment I pray, asking God to forgive me, to forgive all my sins. Just let me live even a moment with my son. Through tears he added, "Jamila, I regret everything I did. I'm so glad you came into my life. Marrying you showed me another side of this world. And because of the promise I gave you, there's still hope for me. Maybe I can be free." I stared at him in shock. He lowered his head and whispered in my ear, "I promised you I wouldn't stain my hands with blood again. That promise might be what saves me. There was a time my brother killed a few men in anger. They were important people, and someone snitched. But they still haven't proved anything against me. If nothing was proven and it was just about those 2 or 3 people dying, then I wasn't involved. I thought I should be free. I prayed every moment, just like I was asked, hoping nothing else would be exposed. 3 months later, the news came. Farhad was released. He had gone to court, proven innocent, and set free. His eldest brother was also released, but the middle brother remained there. After being freed, Farhad said he didn't want that house or that life anymore. He wanted to repent. He didn't want friends or acquaintances to bother him, asking why he abandoned that house. He told me we should leave the country forever. It was 2003 when we said goodbye to everyone and moved to Canada. We started almost from scratch. Farhad's field of study was civil engineering, and with his skills in business, he quickly got to work. Within 7 years, we became wealthy again. Our son had grown up during that time. We named him Diaco, after Farhad's grandfather, whom he loved dearly. About 7 years later, we heard from Iran that my eldest brother-in-law had been arrested. This time, unfortunately, everything was exposed. They spent a lot of money trying to get him free, but it didn't work. After his death, his wife, Nastarin, came to Canada and settled near us. Since she had loved her husband deeply, she never remarried. She occasionally visits, and sometimes goes back to Iran to be with her family. I always thank God for the love that saved my life and Farhad's. I don't know how many people in the world are lucky enough to experience the kind of love we did, true love that guides you to the right path because of the person you care for. Our life could have ended very bitterly, but thanks to Farhad's love and his repentance, it ended sweetly. I won't say we regained the exact wealth we had before, but we were given enough so that money would no longer be a burden. Our child is with us, I am with him, and we have a good life. My siblings married in Iran and sometimes visit during New Year's, spending time together happily. My father passed away 3 years ago during COVID. I want to thank all of you for listening to my story until now. Farhad and I read every single comment. Thank you for staying with us. My dear friends, thank you for listening. If you haven't liked the video yet, please do so, and we'll share another story soon. Goodbye.